First up, Hode.
Hi, Herm. How you doing?
Good.
I know that some fans might have thought that the team was checked out before the U of A game just because, everything that the team has gone through. I mean, obviously, this might sound like hindsight, but that never was the case. But did you sense any issues at all with this team just not being ready to hit on all cylinders before this rivalry game, or that was really just foolish notion to begin with?
No, that is never the mindset in this building, whether you're a coach or a player. The mindset is always about improving yourself, both parties. As a coaching staff, how do we get them through this? And then as players, obviously, trying to get better at what we do. We're trying to build something here, and that's out of the question. That was never even a thought.
Trevor.
Hi, Herm. Looking ahead to this weekend, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see from Oregon State on both sides of the ball? And also, how do you anticipate you guys will be prepared for an environment where it's expected to be rainy and windy on that day?
Mention that. I don't mention the conditions. But much improved football team. They beat Oregon. They were ranked 9th. That's a big rivalry game for them as well. Had Washington on the ropes. Just couldn't get it in there toward the end. So they've been very competitive. Coach Smith has done a marvelous job of really recruiting players that fit his style on offense and defense. Very, very complicated offense. We dealt with them last year. Multi-dimensional, a lot of tight ends, a lot of receivers, a lot of motions. They boot, waggle, they do it all now. A lot of eye candy for defense, get you in some bad situations if you don't read your keys. They have a nice running attack. Have a quarterback now that was installed in the lineup. It seems like he's starting to get confident in what he's asked to do. Defensively, they improved. They're a solid defense, don't make a lot of mistakes. Have some pretty good players in the secondary, good linebacking crew. So this is a team that every year seems to get more talent. Now they're under coach's watch, and he's starting to develop a good program up there.
Done.
Hi, Herm. Were you disappointed to learn that you guys were being sent on the road for your final game, even though you've only played one home game and Oregon State has played several? And then also, what does that mean for your seniors who won't get like a last home game?
Yeah, you always feel bad for the seniors, but that's just part of what we're dealing with. I mean, every program right now, nothing is written in pen. I always say everything this year is written in pencil because you might have to erase it and change. And you got to deal with change. You got to deal with, all of a sudden you're headed in one direction, it could change. And we all knew that when this season got started. The virus obviously has a lot to do with it. You can see already there's been some cancellations in our conference. I think last week was actually the first week that our conference, everyone actually played. And this week we've got cancellation already. So you just deal with the cards you're dealt with, and you don't make a big deal out of it. I've never done that. We'll get ready to play and prepare to play and try to go win us football.
Zach.
Afternoon, Coach. Was there a specific number that you guys were shooting for? Because at one point in that game, it really felt like 100 points was something that was possible.
No. I don't believe in that. I'm not that guy. We threw 13 passes. We were trying to run the football. If you watch this play, when we got a lead, I made sure that we took the clock down to 5 seconds before we hiked it on offense. I was playing against the clock, trying to get players out of there, trying to get our players out of there healthy, as well as our opponent healthy, get them out of there. Also allow young players to play. Jackson He got a lot of attention, and rightly so. But I don't think a lot of our fans, unless they knew the player or there was their son, that a lot of the kids played. We had other walk-on guys to play as well. It wasn't just Jackson He. 61 players played in this football game. And as a coach, when you get in a game like this, you realize that all these guys, scholarship players, along with some walk-ons, have not played a lot. You wanted to give them an opportunity to play. And we were fortunate enough where the game was at. That's what we were trying to do, to be quite honest.
Michael.
Yeah, Coach, good to see you. Obviously, congrats on the win. When you look at, overall, I've been talking a lot about defense, but it's been 3 games, but every game it just seems like they're getting more dominant. Jermaine's obviously had a lot to do with that, but just what have you seen, even though more practice than playing, like you said, but what have you just seen from the defense from the start, even of late fall camp until now, and the growth of it?
Well, they're starting to understand what's required. And I think it's on both sides of the ball. You think about we've only played 3 games. And that's why you have spring ball. And this is why you have a 12-game season. So maybe your first 3 games aren't against Pac-12 opponents where you can kind of grow as a team, especially on offense and defense. And I think our games have been under the spotlight of playing in conference opponents. And, it's been tough, but it's been good too, because you've watched a lot of guys develop. We can't wait until obviously spring ball starts, because then we've had a 4-game season or whatever the season ends up being under our belt, and we can build on that going forward. So it's been fun to watch guys start to understand what's required of them.
Michelle.
Hey, Coach, when you look back where your team was after the USC game, is there one area of this team that you're most pleased with their progress?
Well, I think our ability to pay attention to the details of what's required in all 3 phases. And really, I always say it's never about the opponent so much as about ourselves. What do we do to better ourselves? And how complete can we be in all 3 phases of football? And I think that's the key to football. The more you play, the more you have experience of the competition and how players function competing against an opponent. And I think this is good for us because we can build on this going into the spring, that we'll get 4 or whatever, how many games we get in, as I said earlier, and find out a lot about some of the young guys. I think some of the young guys in this game kind of played better. They played better than the USC game, right? If you just watch this play last 3 games, we had a lot of young players play, especially at the receiver position. Now, I say that we only threw the ball 13 times, but their effort and blocking part of it, Johnny made some catches. We saw some guys all of a sudden that they're kind of growing up, which you want. Same way on defense. A lot of young players in defense, especially in the secondary and the linebacker position. A lot of young guys played. And so those are valuable reps, believe it or not.
Jordan.
Yeah, Coach, kind of piggybacking off of that, how do you relay the message after a 70-7 win like that? Now knowing you have a final game, how do you relay that message that there's still things to work on from that game?
There's a lot of things to work on. We're nowhere close to where we want to be. But I think the players, to get a win, I think this is the first time for a lot of these freshman kids that are in our program actually won a college game. And it was hard to win a game. This was their first win. How they use it will be interesting this week, how they come to work this week. They're going to think that they actually didn't win when I get through talking to them tomorrow. So, and there's got to be a tone set. And I think it's important that we try to win another game. All of a sudden you win 2 in a row. That would be a good thing for us this year.
Tressa.
Hey, Coach. Sorry for the delay. Just kind of piggybacking off of that, talking about those freshmen, you had quite a lot that played in that Arizona game a few years ago. We're talking about this and how you were going to be playing a lot of young players. How impressed are you so far, given all the adversity with their growth, and how far along are you in that process with these freshmen?
Well, I think on both sides of the ball, and even in special teams, a lot of young guys are getting to play, and that's vital for our program because you got to grow them up, and the only way they learn is to play. You always promise players they're going to get an opportunity, And this game just kind of unfolded where we could get a lot of players playing time. And the coaches made sure they were in the game. You know, there were so many of them in the game. I couldn't keep up with everybody until I actually watched the tape and I got the snap count of a lot of guys. I mean, the young offensive linemen, there's a group of kids there that haven't played a lot here, that played on special teams, you know, PAT and stuff like that. We got them in the game. They played 15, almost 20 plays, some of those guys. So that was good. That was their first time playing in a football game. And same way on defense at numerous positions. So I think that's always good when you get young players into the play.
Jacob.
Hi, Herm. You've talked a couple times about how this year has provided so many opportunities to kind of teach the players things off the field and to kind of push them through adversity. How would you hope that what's gone on with your program this year is going to build the player off the field? Because you've talked about the importance of that so many times.
Well, I think your value system, what you value in life is important, and your purpose. And I think when that gets kind of disrupted, you got to check yourself and say, hey, how am I going to deal with all this? And I've said this numerous times with you folks. This is unprecedented for all of us, for everybody. Whatever job title you hold and whatever you do, this has been unprecedented. And I think for all of us, we learn a lot about ourselves and the people we surround ourselves with and the people we work with and we associate with. We find out a lot. Since March 8th, we have found out a lot about who we are and how we handle something like this that we had no idea right now in December, a week away before Christmas, we would still be dealing with this. So I think as the calendar switches and the new year comes in place, there is hope that we're going to be on the backside of this eventually. And when we start next year, season starts, we won't have this discussion. And you folks will be sitting in this room, and I'll have the ability to talk to you. But I think we have to all really look at ourselves and look at our lives and say, what did I learn about myself going through this?
Oh,
Herman, I said a few minutes ago that by the time you're done talking to the team tomorrow, they have thought that they've lost the game against U of A, not won it.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the film sessions on the day after? I mean, what were they like? I mean, was it really more concentrating on the negatives than the positives?
It was really highlighting a lot of the young guys that I got an opportunity to play. And that's what I did. I highlighted some plays on offense, defense, and special teams of young guys playing and contributing. And finally getting an opportunity to play was big for a lot of these guys. And as I said, you know, Jackson, he is the guy that's getting all the publicity right now, rightly so. I understand why. But there were a handful of walk-on guys that played on both sides of the ball, that not are on scholarship. And, you know, the quarterback, backup quarterback, out of scholarship play. There were some receivers. There were some other guys, some offensive linemen in there. There were some defensive players in there too. And they got to play. And that was kind of fun to watch them play. And the excitement they had of playing the game. Now, Jackson was the one that got the game ball and all that, and he was interviewed. The rest of these kids weren't interviewed, but I tell you what, there were some memories made for them. And I don't know if they're going to play again, but we had an opportunity to get them in the game, and I can't thank my coaches enough for realizing that that we needed to get those guys in the game. And they'll remember that. When they're 20 years from now, they'll remember that. I promise you, they will.
few more questions. Doug.
Herm, the defensive line has seemed to play pretty well this year. Just what impact has Robert Rodriguez had in his first year with the program?
I've been very good as far as the fundamentals go and what's required, you know, and obviously we changed our front. We went to a four-man front. And, you know, it's going to be interesting going forward in the spring. And then when we get the recruiting class that we have, hopefully we're going to get, to watch that develop, to watch that line continue to develop with some more talented players. It's going to be fun because it's a four-man front. It's something that I'm used to, something that Marvin is used to, as well as AP. Not that our defense before was very good. It was. I mean, Danny and those guys did a fabulous job. But now we've gone to more of a four-man front. And you saw that in the bowl game last year against Florida State. We played more of a four-man front, knowing we might be headed that way. So it's going to be interesting to watch these guys grow.
Jack.
Do you think even with the bowl opportunities that have been lost, because the situation is so fluid, that if you beat Oregon State, you might get a shot at a bowl?
That's a possibility. Yeah, there's a possibility of that. And we'll just see where that goes. You know, we'll see where that stands with us.
Last question, Zach.
Coach, following up on your response from just a minute ago, what have you learned about yourself in the past 9 months here?
Probably something I already knew about myself. That I consider myself a guy that has a positive attitude, and that I always rely on hope. You know, that's kind of how I live my life. I always lived it that way. I've learned that from my parents, from what they had to go through when they were growing up, especially my mom. You know, my father's no longer here, but my mom is still with us. She's 95 years old, and I get to talk to her every once in a while. She's in a home, and she still kind of remembers her son, which is good. And I see that gleam in her eyes at 95 years old. And I have a lot of my mom in me, to be quite honest. It's good to see her.
All right, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach.